Hey everyone, I'm Vase Odin from the Left for the Vultures YouTube channel.
And I'm Gio. I'm from the Headless Hammerhead YouTube channel.
Today we're actually just recording a brief reaction video to some of the news that came out of Wizards of the Coast recently. It's got a big impact for the tabletop gaming industry, so let's get to it. Recently, Professor Dungeon Master of the Dungeon Craft YouTube channel, very popular channel, he came out with a reaction video to some of the statements that were made during one of the most recent conventions. Wizards of the Coast is finally starting to get back into the convention circuit. For many years, they were not present in conventions, which is mind-blowing that a company that is the leader of the industry is not showing up to all these conventions. But anyways, at least they've made a change in that sense, and they started showing up to conventions. They had a panel with Gary Gygax, a designer, one of the lead designers of Dungeons and Dragons. His son, Luke Gygax, was on a panel, and they had a kind of a very, very revealing discussion about it. Basically, for the past few years, Dungeons and Dragons have been ostracizing their older fans. They've been kind of pushing them away. And we made a video just last week, it just so happens, about the mistakes that Wizards of the Coast made. And a lot of the mistakes that they made, they kind of sort of apologized for.
Yeah, it wasn't just ostracizing their fans. They completely bashed the creator, Gygax, the creator of Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't credit him in several things, including the Dungeons and Dragons.
One of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons before
right.
the actually people attacked you.
Yeah, right. Including Honor Among Thieves. They didn't mention any of the creators. It just said in the credits, they just credited Hasbro as the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, which is, I mean, ridiculous. The slight is, you can't even call it a slight. It's a slap in the face.
Yeah, they also had an introduction in one of their books where they literally was an entire page of apologizing for Gary Gygax and things that he said or whatever.
Yeah. And the worst part of that one was that book was meant to honor the creation of Dungeons and Dragons and how it's lasted for so many years and how it has basically survived in the social discussion and become kind of a part of the zeitgeist. There you go.
Many channels have kind of reacted to this because in addition to WotC, there's been a couple of prominent voices that have also been part of this division that's occurred in the last few years for the fan base. I mean, it's been almost a purposeful pushing away of the older fans. And when we talked about this in our last video, the mistakes that WotC made, is we made a point to say that these older fans are the ones who have the money to spend for these games. The younger people don't have the money. Just like when we were younger, we couldn't afford the books, like maybe one or two. But now that we're older, we can afford to buy every single book that comes out if we want. We can buy multiple copies of every book if we want.
What we were discussing in our video last week was that they're trying to appeal to a broader audience by bringing in a newer audience, newer players and readers, but they're not the ones with the money. And you can do that and expand your base. However, you don't do it at the expense of your core base, which is exactly what they did. They vilified their core base.
Yeah.
To embrace the younger audience because they thought that by vilifying the core base, their younger audience would be more attracted to the company. Now, it's really interesting because I read the comments in a couple of those videos, including well, not in ours as well. We got quite a few snarky comments, which are always interesting, especially when the person who comments doesn't even watch our entire video to get the full context.
Yeah.
And they base it on the first minute of the video.
Our video was an analysis of all the mistakes and the repercussions. We weren't agreeing or disagreeing. We just were pointing out that these were things that affected the current state of the game. And people are, man, the attacks were just like personal. They were getting personal. Like, dude, like, calm down, bro.
Yeah, calm down. And the worst ones are the ones that attack based on how many views or how many followers we have or subscribers we have to our videos. Like that's even an issue anyway, but it's just a petty attack.
But anyway, so you were saying you were reading the comments on those other videos.
I was reading the comments on some of those other videos that we're reacting to now. And a lot of the commenters are saying, well, Dungeons and Dragons, they're not sorry that they've ostracized their core base. What they're sorry about is that we ran off with the money that we were giving them. A lot of the comments are saying that they don't miss us, they miss our money.
Yeah, a lot of these people, they're not coming back because it's not just one thing. It's multiple things, right? It's multiple things that they did repeatedly. Some say they'll come back if Wizards of the Coast publicly apologizes to Gary Gygax. publicly. Some people say they'll never come back, and who can blame them? I mean, it's one thing after another after another. But one of the great things that Professor Dungeon Master said in his video is tell your employees and your designers to shut up. I love that, because we talked about that in our video as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I left a comment on his video as well, and I basically said that the true apology should be firing all of those people who stepped out of line, because no company should put up with that from their employees.
hmm
Imagine a McDonald's employee going off and insulting a customer who's handing them their money,
Yeah.
and saying, I don't like people who wear orange shirts. Orange shirt people are whatever,
hmm
pick your word. And that person would be fired on the spot. And that's what should happen at Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons as well. I don't know if they've let anybody go.
Well, they
who
have,
did all
but
that
it's
stuff,
not
but
because of that. And some people in the comments were saying that, like Kyle Brink. Kyle Brink is the guy who went on the apology tour after the OGL disaster. If you want to know what the OGL was about, watch our previous video. But anyways, Kyle Brink went on this apology tour on YouTube, different YouTube channels. And he kept making comments like white people can't get out of the game soon enough and things like that. And he was let go, but not because of that. And that's the thing that's important here. He wasn't let go for that.
mind you, before we start getting attacked, we are not white.
Yeah.
We are
We're
Hispanic. We're born and
Yeah.
raised in Panama,
We
and
speak
we moved
Spanish.
here. We are U.S. citizens.
We're not
we are
Hispanic,
Hispanic.
like some Americans say, oh, I'm Hispanic, when their grandfather was, Mexican or something, and they
Right.
were born here. No, we were not born in this
speak
country.
Spanish. We were born and raised in Panama. So before you start attacking, oh, you white people get insulted.
Yeah.
We're not white.
Yeah.
So
We just don't like racism in any form. Anyways,
Any form.
so he went around saying that, and then he was let go, but not for that. He was let go because they were doing layoffs because of budgeting. So it had nothing to do with that. When he made those comments, everyone went up in arms, and Wizards of the Coast did nothing about it. In fact, some of the other designers kept doubling down on similar comments and things like that. And I think Professor Dungeon Master has a really good point. Whether you agree or disagree with the political stance of certain people, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a company that makes games. And the point that Professor Dungeon Master and we made as well in our previous video is just talk about dungeons and talk about dragons. Like,
exactly.
keep your
I
politics to
love that
yourself.
line that he said. There's
Yeah.
only two things they should be talking about on social media. One is dungeons and the other is dragons. 100% a classic statement. I mean, that should be on t-shirts.
Yeah. And before anyone starts saying, oh, MAGA this, MAGA that, right wing, we're not right wing, we're not MAGA, we're also not left wing. Our politics are aside from gaming. What we're talking about is the discussions on the impacts, specifically on the culture war in society. And Professor Dungeon Master also, no one knows which side he stands on, and it doesn't matter. He calls things out as it is. And he is right to call it out, because in the end, why are your designers talking about politics or the culture war when it has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons? And that is one of the big things that pushed people away. It was, sure, the company's direction in some of the things, we talked about the art and things like that, is a little bit off-putting, but that's not what really pushed people away. It's the fact that the people
Right. People
making
can
those
pass
things
that.
are then
Yeah.
posting things and vilifying the customer base. And that, I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. This video from Professor Dungeon Master, and then also a channel that I watch. It's a smaller channel called We Love TTRPGs. Aiton, I think is the guy's name. He recently made a post because there's an author who made kind of like a history of Dungeons and Dragons. I actually have it, bought it for me, but now I think I'm going to burn it. His revisionist history of Dungeons and Dragons is so bad. Like, he just paints everything in such a horrible light. And he posted on social media something about Gary Gygax being sexist and all this stuff, but there's more context to the statements that he was making.
Oh, Lordy.
And We Love TTRPGs they copied the post, posted it on YouTube, and said, I'm making a video about this very soon. And Aiton is also not involved in the culture war. No one knows which side he stands on. I have a feeling he leans more to the left. But guess what? He agrees. And people need to stop reacting in the way that they've been reacting in our videos. Like,
You're
it's
right.
not about left or right, dude. It's about what's
Everything has to be
correct.
politics nowadays. And
Yeah.
it's funny. I was telling my kids a story last night for bedtime. And so my kids are 12 and 7. And so I'm telling them a story of, actually, I was recounting the history, since we brought up Nathan, my character Nathan from our first campaign in basic D&D. I told them a story of when we went into the woods and to kill this ogre. And they didn't know what an ogre was. And I'm like, oh, Shrek. And they're like, oh, is it like a gremlin? So I'm trying to explain the differences between gremlins, ogres, goblins, kobolds, and all that stuff. And then it just came straight to my mind what recently Dungeons and Dragons did, where they were saying that ogres were a representation of black
Orcs.
people.
Orcs were.
Orcs were, which is just the most ridiculous, most ludicrous thing. It's a fantasy setting. Orcs are representing orcs.
And this
They're
is
not
what I
representing.
tell our group. Like when we talked about this, it's like they're saying that it's a representation of black people, but you do realize there are black humans in the game.
In the fantasy game. Yeah.
If humans in the fantasy game, and there are black humans in the fantasy game, but orcs represent black humans in real life, like, where are you getting this from? How does that even make any sense?
It shows the person who says that
It's so
is
dumb.
the racist.
Yeah,
They're
they're
the ones who are
absolutely are the
seeing
racists.
in themselves. You know, it's like Biden's comment of what was it where he said poor people
Poor people are just like white people, or something
are
like
just
that.
like white people.
Yeah, or
Like,
something to
come
that
on,
effect.
your racism
That's
is
so
exposed,
racist,
man. You had a little wardrobe malfunction there.
Mhm.
You know, so those people who are the biggest critics are the biggest racists. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, and those of you who are posting right now, little comments like you did on the last video, you don't see it. You don't see everyone else sees it except for you. You don't realize how racist you are when you
Right.
post that shit. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, we just wanted to kind of react on that because it's so funny that this news came out right after our video came out a week ago, and our video has received a lot of hate and this and that from, of course, you know, we expected it. We knew this was going to happen because the minute you make any kind of comment, even observe it like we were doing, we weren't, you know, picking a side or anything. But the minute you start even observing or make a note of it, then all of a sudden you're just this evil person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, this was our reaction video. Post your comments down below, especially if you hate us. And if you want to say, if you want to show off your
If you
racism.
do hate us and you want to post a comment, make sure you watch the whole video so you get the full context before you
No,
start.
let them post.
making
It's good for the algorithm. More posts.
That's
Keep
true.
posting.
That's true.
Hate us. Hate on us. We love it. All right, guys. We'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.
Yeah. God, I want to